Have you ever played a game that you thought potentially could be really, really good? It has some really fun moments, but it's completely let down by a few design choices. Guys and girls, you're listening to Airtic Hydra, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about Overkill's The Walking Dead. Just released a couple of days ago, this game is currently rocking a 50% score, give or take, on the Steam charts. It's obviously going to change day to day, but currently it's safe to say the game's not off to a great start, and I completely agree for a change with the actual reviews coming in. That being said, I want to talk about the pros and the cons of this game as I see it, what you're going to get from the game, and where I see this game going. I want to make sure you guys know where you're potentially putting your money. So what we're going to do in this video is actually start off by talking about the positives, because I think they're somewhat underplayed right now as to what this game does differently to other games, because it's not actually that like Left 4 Dead. It's not a lot like Vermintide. It's doing its own thing, but there is a little bit of an overlap in terms of genre. So we're obviously rocking a first-person game right now. We are playing in a zombie survival, also with elements of scavenge as well, and a little bit of roleplay and base management mixed in. We're going to go through each of those in a lot of detail. As you can see, me and one other compadre right now are currently rocking through the map, clearing out zombies and gathering up some loot, which we're going to be using to upgrade our base once we've finished with the mission. Obviously, you can see the textures for yourself. You can see the actual graphics. This is using the Unreal Engine now, and this is made by the same developers as Payday 2. And I think it's safe to say that they've upped their game in terms of aesthetics a little bit. Some of the animations look a little bit familiar, and some of the animations, particularly for the melees when you're looking at other AI and other users attacking, sometimes look a little bit clunky, but for the most part I think visually they've done pretty well with this game. Audio-wise, I have to say I feel there is a little bit of a lack of zombie noises. When they sneak up beside you, they can actually come out of nowhere. Now, this may be something intentional by the developers, but zombies actually pose quite a threat in this game, and this is one of the things that really sets the game apart from the others of the genre, like Left 4 Dead. Zombies within this are actually quite a big threat, so it was a little bit of a surprise for me to find out they can sneak up on you without making a noise. Again, maybe that's intended from the developers. You'll see every now and again when one of the zombies attacks me, it will grapple, and you get the choice at that point of clicking left click to spam your attack button to try and chisel them in the head, or you can push them away using the right mouse button, which shoves all the enemies away next to you, but you do take a massive chunk of damage as a result. So in terms of gameplay, we're currently going through one of the more linear parts of this map, and for the most part the maps are somewhat linear, but there are various branching options as to routes you can take. These options are often tied to one of your items which you have as a character. This could be a wire cutter, this could be a battery pack, this could be a set of mechanics tools, etc. You can use these things to unlock different routes, so this means potentially when you play the game through in lots of different character combinations and skill combinations, you may end up not having quite as much repetition as you expect. There's also various difficulty modes, and there's a bunch of loot to collect as well as a power rating for the actual items, so more or less you're going to be farming a little bit every now and again, as well as obviously going through the story. Now, I feel even though this portion of the video is supposed to be talking about the positives, I want to talk about the story now. Thus far, in the first 6 or 7 missions which I've done, I've put about 7 to 8 hours into the game, and unfortunately the story seems to be boiled down to doing a set of fairly trivial tasks, or at least they feel that way. There's not a lot of character development, and despite how awesome the CGI developed trailer is for this game, which really paints a wonderful cinematic theatrical experience, there's no character development within this whatsoever. You don't really know the personality of the actual people you're playing. That doesn't come out at all. In that respect, it's a little bit like Left 4 Dead, in which case each one of them maybe plays a little bit of a stereotype, but there is no real character development. There is more of just an overarching, our base has been attacked, so now we need to do this, or now we need to get these resources because our base is in trouble, or we need to get and go and kill this horde over here to save someone. There's never really actually anything dedicated to a character individually. It's much more related to the overall arching base. So if you're after a decent story, or if you're coming from a Telltale game expecting something similar of this, oh boy, you can be let down. This is more action orientated, But that being said, again, I'd emphasise this really separates itself from Left 4 Dead. As you can see with the shots, you pretty much need a headshot for this in order to get a kill. Silenced weapons count for a lot because noise is a real problem. The more you shoot, the more enemies you get. And one of the mechanics which the game uses to really promote this concept is in the middle top of the screen right now, and this is a horde meter. The more noise you make, the more this builds up. You have horde level 1, 2 or 3, and by the time you get to 3, it basically means enemies are going to be constantly showing up. There's going to be loads of them and it's going to cause you problems. Now, as well as actually fighting zombies, you're going to occasionally fight against human players, or as I like to call them, human potatoes, because their AI basically boils down to one of two things. They're either going to walk towards you aiming and occasionally shoot maybe once every 8 seconds, or they're going to go behind cover, occasionally jump up, shoot you about once every 8 seconds. It's very predictable, very linear. It was one of the criticisms of the actual beta, and I have to say it still stands now. The actual enemy human AI, even though they can kill you in a couple of hits or even one hit from a shotgun, they really do act a little bit potato-ish, and it's something I kind of hope changes a little, and I think a few minor adjustments would really go some way to help, and hopefully it's something they continue to improve on. So, in terms of the actual gameplay, when there are multiple zombies in one area, this is where the game feels totally different to Left 4 Dead, because you can't kill them fast enough, especially with melee, and if you shoot with your gun, you're going to get yourself often into more trouble. Guns are really get out of a sticky situation and not to be used when there's just a lot of zombies in front of you. Although, obviously, the crossbow, that being said, is silent, so always nice to have on Heather, I believe, that's rocking the crossbow. In terms of actual good things about this game as well, the actual weapons have some customization too, and there's quite a few different weapons. It's not just a crossbow, there's different types of crossbow, different modifications for the crossbow. We're not talking something quite Tom Clancy Rainbow Six. You don't have like 20 different parts you can put on a weapon, but there are stocks, there are scopes, there are lots of different pieces. We'll have a check out of that screen in a mo. So thus far, the game base difficulty is pretty tough as well. It's really worth pointing out that this is not a game for the casual experience. If players go wandering off on their own, if you have one guy on your team that's using a lot of gunshots when you really don't want them to, even on the easiest difficulty, you're potentially going to have a really tough time actually getting through this. Now, there has been some mention as well about the maps getting a little bit repetitive, and I will admit that a lot of the obstacles you come across fall into one of about 5 things. It's going to be either grabbing fuses, grabbing fuel, or grabbing parts to put together to put onto an item so you can then progress forwards. And I will admit it does somewhat seem a little bit out of place, but at the same time, from a player's point of view that's played Left 4 Dead, everything sort of, I'm okay with it. You know what? You have to have some sort of challenge or obstacle to do every now and again to stay in one place. I get that, otherwise you'd just be running and racing through a map very quickly. So I kind of like the change. But that being said, I can appreciate it is a little bit odd that there's so many forklift trucks scattered around Washington these days. A little bit odd, but I can live with it. In terms of team communication, I really feel this is a game that's going to be potentially amazing fun to play with some friends. I'd say amazing. It could be good fun to play with some friends. It does have some glaring problems. We're going to go through those in a moment. This is potentially a game that's going to be immensely frustrating to play with strangers, though, because there is a huge capacity to fuck it up for your team just by making too much noise, bumping into a car, setting off a car alarm on a hard difficulty. That's pretty much going to trigger a horde, and a horde on this is actually quite threatening. Someone likes going off on their own, doing their own thing, also frustrating. But again, there is therefore capacity to actually enjoy the game more when things are going well for you. And the actual stress created when things go badly, if you are able to overcome that, there is an equal amount of joy potentially the other side. But again, I would say the average player seems to be struggling a bit more with this game. The base difficulty is simply not that orientated to a casual experience. And if you're playing this solo, I would say there is a fair probability that you're going to end up frustrated at people basically wiping your group. Something to be aware of, that there will be, I feel a little bit of a try-hard vibe to this, and I think there needs to be because it's a high base difficulty game. Now, that being said, that's pretty much us done for the good stuff. Now we need to talk about why this game, even though I've said all of this nice stuff, is still going to be stuck on 50% for quite some time. And this can really be summarised quite well from the very first mission you go into, the one that received a lot of negative press back in the early beta, or the beta that was out several weeks ago, where players spotted that the first mission was just boring. It's much more like playing Black Ops. I don't know if you guys have played it, but basically within this game you have a bunch of windows leading to your base, and every now and again the wooden planks will be destroyed, the zombies will get through, you kill the zombies, you replank it up, and then you wait a little bit of time for something else to break and go wrong, and you repeat this. Planks, zombies, planks, zombies, planks, zombies, and you're going to be there for about 15 minutes doing one of these, and it's immensely repetitive and boring because it's just going from point A to point B to point C to point A, and it's not exciting. It doesn't have any tension. It doesn't have enough walkers surrounding you because it will come in one direction. Now granted, if you put the difficulty up, it's probably a little bit better, but it really feels out of place for this game. The difficulty with this is not only is this the first impression many people are going to get from this game, it's also the third impression. Mission number 3 is the same bloody thing playing against the potato human AI, and I really feel that the idea was there, but the execution was bad. And the reason the execution for me is not working is because it worked in Call of Duty because the action made it interesting. The gunplay, the upgrades, you could buy lots of different guns during the mission, you could do lots of different upgrades during the mission, and that made it more interesting, that made it more exciting. And what's the problem with this game? That just doesn't exist. You have your weapons when you go in the map. You can get some barbed wire and put it down as well, or a spike trap, or one or the other, by the way, not both. And that's basically it. It is simply just dull. And I know it's only the tutorial mission of the map, but it does feature several times throughout the game, and it really is setting a very bad tone. I personally feel if they'd started the game with the second mission, which is the one we've been playing through in the footage thus far, the impression of the game would have been a lot higher. I feel that on its own as a change would have helped. And really, I think some extra love and attention needs to go into these horde mode missions, which are potentially a good idea. It makes sense to have a horde mode game in a zombie game. I mean, it worked for several titles. It worked, I think, for The Division. Gears of War did a pretty decent job. There's titles out there that have had it work. Obviously, Black Ops, I think, is the closest one that this will be familiar to in terms of mechanics. But in this game, it just doesn't work. It feels misplaced, and it's incredibly boring as well. So the question is, will that be enough to put you off? And I think yes, probably for quite a few people. Also, as well as this, not only is that game mode incredibly dull, every single story mission after that you go back to that map when all of your friendly NPCs have decided to just come out of their hiding, and then you hand in the quest. So this is a really weird mechanic, and something they had in Payday, which they actually deleted because it was fucking stupid to have. Basically, every time you did a mission, you'd go back to the vault and you'd hand the mission in after loading into a mission to hand in a mission. And that's it. You just go there and hand it in. And this game's gone back to that. And I don't know whose bright idea this was, or who thought this would be clever. You can see the survivors in your camp. Okay, great. There's some NPCs that stand there and don't do anything. Why, oh why they decided to implement this? You basically exit out of a mission, 5-minute loading screen because the loading is basically dog shit right now, and then you load into another mission to have a 5-second conversation. Yeah, you get access to a storage box as well to put items in, and a shop. Okay, I feel that would be much better done in the menu. And then you're 5 minutes loading out and into another mission. It just makes no fucking sense, especially when the game's got so much going on in the menus. Now, it's time to actually have a look at the menus and discuss some of the other janky features that this game has. These right now I'm on the fence for. We've talked about some of the positives, we talked about some of the negatives. There are definitely plenty of both right now. For me, the elephant in the room for this game currently is the god-awful mission types for some of them. Also, I guess you could probably argue that there's a lot of recycling for maps within this game that you will see. Not loads, but you will come across doing the same map in different positions with different areas unlocked, and it's not terrible. I've seen games be a lot more repetitive, but every now and again you'll be like, I've done this room already in the campaign. But overall, one thing we can look forward to before we go into the janky features is the fact that this game's following a season model. Now, I don't like to ever raise hype based on future promises, at least not after the Martyr incident. But what they are planning to do with this game is to release an extra episode for a season about once every month, which basically means you get a new story mission, which means a new map, which means potentially something new and exciting to actually set yourself the challenge of doing. Potentially interesting, but again, there are definitely downsides, both to the gameplay and in terms of map design. So let's load up the actual janky features and start talking about these, because this game's definitely got some weird stuff in it. Okay, so here we are within the actual menu, and I think it's also a good point now to shout out to the actual menu music. It counts a lot for me. It's one of the things I really love. It's pretty decent music, it's pretty chilled out, and I have to say the actual music design, whoever did it, pretty decent, good job. So within this screen we can actually start to look at what's available within this game to customize characters and then customize your camp. This is all pretty relevant to understanding why you might be grinding within this game. So we have 6 base characters, 2 of which need to be unlocked. Each of these people cannot be customized in terms of visual appearance aside from choosing the skins, and there are different skins. You cannot preview some of them. Oh no, you can, tell a lie. And yeah, okay, they are just skins. I wouldn't go so far as calling them outfits. Now, for the more interesting stuff, you can change weapons. You can unlock more weapons by simply playing more. You'll notice I have 2 types of crossbow. I have a rifle, an SMG, and this. I have far more pistols actually available at the moment, and also there are modifications for these. So I will be able to equip this weapon with a pocket laser module, and this will increase its accuracy somewhat. Weapons also degrade and need to be repaired using parts. These are in the top right corner of the screen, and these are things that you will gather throughout the missions. To make things more interesting, because simply just having some weapons is not quite sufficient, I think, we have skills, and we have core skills, and we have character skills. We're currently looking at the character skills. Here's the core skills. Also shout out to the AD controls. Bethesda could actually learn something from this, because this is a game that's actually bothered to make something friendly for people with a keyboard. So looking at the character skills, you can basically level up what your character does. This character in particular has access to a medikit, and the medikit allows other people to gather around and heal up using it. You can also upgrade your healing abilities. You can also upgrade weapon carry capacity, ammo capacity, reload speeds and damage and things of that nature. So you can end up with a somewhat customized piece of character, and it's obviously worth doing this because by the time you've leveled up 1, 2, 3, 4, you're going to end up with a lot of health bars there, pretty much doubling your health from when you started, so something very, very useful to have. This helps give an extra level of customization to the game, and I think it adds to a little bit of incentive, and it's an extra little layer on top of what I used to love within Left 4 Dead, and I think that this game is a nice... I wouldn't see it as an evolution from Left 4 Dead. It's doing its own thing, but it's definitely, I feel, a step up from Left 4 Dead in terms of customization and general design features. I just think it's 5 steps down in terms of the actual map and gameplay execution, primarily because they've gone with these god-awful modes that are just dull. If they had 10 maps that were all focused on just these long pilgrimages, like you used to make, pilgrimages, well, that's not a real word, is it? You know what I mean. If there were these long maps to traverse like in Left 4 Dead, I think it would have gone down a lot better. Now we have the weird feature, which I would say it almost belongs within a mobile game. If you've played the app for Dying Light, you'll be familiar with this. We have survivors in our camp. We have 6 of them. We have various missions that they can go on. These are the missions available, and these are the ones that have been successful. We can claim the rewards. No gear rewarded, but we did get some scrap and equipment. So what we can do now is we can pick one of these missions to send one of our virtual survivors on. I have to say, this feels like something that I would rather be doing while on the toilet than actually, you know, in the game. It just doesn't really feel like it particularly belongs here, you know? You can see each person has a different percentage chance of success, and that's something you should probably take into consideration, because if they fail, they will get injured and potentially die. So that's something you do want to be careful about. And okay, if it is what it is, it gives you extra items, it can give you stuff. I personally, I'm not entirely sure if this is a good thing for the game or a bad thing for the game. I can't make my mind up right now. It's just... it feels like it belongs on a mobile phone rather than actually in the game. But it doesn't seem to be mandatory. It's not something you have to do. It's just something that's here. Now if we go into the camp upgrades, what you can see with the camp upgrades is these will upgrade your ability to recruit those survivors as well as upgrade them, as well as new areas of the map, which is really weird. This seems to be a way to force players to grind a few missions before advancing through the campaign in some situations, or if you're a little bit liberal with where you spend your resources in terms of weapon upgrades, you may then have to farm some missions so you can unlock the next campaign mission. It doesn't take long. Maybe 1 or 2 missions is enough to unlock the next area. You'll see I have 50, 50, 80, and I only need 7 and 10 there to get the upgrade, but I do have to upgrade this building first. So basically what we'd do is we'd upgrade this, then we'd upgrade that, and we'd go from there, but we don't have enough resources. So this is a weird feature, and yeah, it's just a weird feature. I kind of get why it's introducing basically another experience bar and another resource mechanic, but this game now has a lot of different resources. You've got character XP, you've got survivor XP, completely different things. You've got actual resources, including medikits and blueprints as well. There's a lot of stuff to actually micromanage in this game, and you don't have to do it, but you get advantages from doing it. I'm not entirely sure what I think. There's also the vault, where we have access to all the weapons we've unlocked thus far, all very well and interesting. I kind of like it, not too bad. The actual weapon variety seems quite nice, and there are more available in the shop. You'll notice as well there are green items. There are green, there are all the way up to purple, I believe, so it's actually some incentive to grind stuff out. Now guys, that's pretty much all I have to say on the game for now. Overall, I would say as a summary, this game has some very nice sort of vibe to it in terms of survival co-op scavenging missions, and it forces a lot of quite difficult gameplay and difficult choices. Working together as a team is very rewarding, but the problem is with this game right now, some of the missions are just simply poorly executed and not very fun to play, and you have to almost search out and put up with those in order to get to some of the more exciting ones. Overall, for me, I feel that this is a game that will improve with time. Obviously, we do have to consider the price point right now. I mean, goddamn, whose idea was it to put this at so damn expensive? I understand it's coming with future episodes, but I really feel it would have been safer to make the game cheaper and then to release those for small amounts of money, or to just have a traditional season pass. But I think a cheaper base entry for the game would have really helped, because it's very fair feedback right now that simply for the price, this game is maybe difficult to justify, but if you like it, you like it. Me personally, I'm somewhat satisfied that I bought the game. I don't regret it. I've played it with friends. I'm looking forward to playing it more with friends, but it's pretty damn expensive. Guys, I'd love to know what you think of this down in the comments below. Hit me up in the doobly-doo and we'll have a little chat around there. Drop me a like, drop me a subscribe if you like the video. If you don't like it, leave me a dislike. Feel free to hit the bell as well so you don't miss any future videos. Guys, take care.